Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, a lot of news took place over this weekend, believe me. As I pointed out on X last night, there has been again an explosion of left-wing violence, this time striking very close to home, just 45 miles north of Boston in Nashua, New Hampshire. I promise I'm going to cover that and everything else. But without question, the story of the hour, the story of the moment, the story of the entire world is yesterday's moving, powerful, compassionate, almost unbelievable memorial for Charlie Kirk. Just an absolutely incredible event. Hundreds of thousands of people showed up. They were packed to the rafters in Glendale, Arizona, at a stadium where the Cardinals usually play, the Arizona football team, the NFL team. There were people waiting, a stream of people outside who couldn't get in. There was not one seat available inside. America was mourning the passing of a great man, a great patriot, a great father, a great husband, a great American. And President Trump, I thought, delivered one of the best speeches of his entire career, and I'm going to get to him, I promise. The other thing that happened, again, the Lord moves in very mysterious ways, and Charlie Kirk's influence continues to be felt, his powerful unifying influence. Elon Musk showed up at the memorial service. And he sat down with President Trump. They shook hands. It appeared that they had buried the hatchet and made up in the name of Charlie Kirk. That's what Charlie would have wanted. He would not have wanted them fighting or divided or attacking each other. He would want them to work together and unify for the good of the country. And that's what his memorial service did. So even in death, Charlie Kirk continues to work miracles. Now, as for the actual memorial service itself, it was a tribute, an incredible, powerful, moving tribute to an American martyr. As Trump put it, a martyr for freedom, a martyr for free speech, a martyr ultimately for America. And to me, the person that stole the show, and there were just some really, really good speeches. I mean, I'm talking absolutely incredible speeches. But the one that just went to another dimension, and I think will live on and reverberate for years to come, is the speech delivered by Charlie's wife, Erica Kirk. I want you to listen to her now. She could at times barely move. Emotion had overcome her. You could see the pain on her face. She has lost her young 31-year-old husband. They have two very young children. They are now going to be raised without a father. She now has lost her husband and the great love of her life. President Trump held her, hugged her, comforted her, helped her onto the stage, and then she delivered one of the most powerful eulogies and speeches, honestly, I've ever heard. And she shocked the country, and she shocked the world with her message. Listen now to Erica Kirk talking about her late husband, Charlie Kirk. Roll cut 1A, Mike.
Charlie passionately wanted to reach and save the lost boys of the West. The young men who feel like they have no direction, no purpose, no faith, and no reason to live. The men wasting their lives on distractions, and the men consumed with resentment, anger, and hate. Charlie wanted to help them. He wanted them to have a home with Turning Point USA. And when he went onto campus, he was looking to show them a better path and a better life that was right there for the taking. He wanted to show them that. My husband, Charlie, he wanted to save young men just like the one who took his life.
You know, and then, of course, I'm going to play the next cut, which is really, they're the words heard around the world. But just before I do, I have to say this. I have several nephews. One is 19, the other one is 23. I have a son, as you know, Ashton, who is now 15. All three of them, although different in age and different in stages of their life, have told me that they watched clips of Charlie Kirk. They used to follow him before he was assassinated. And that he struck a deep chord with them, all three of them. And it wasn't so much his political message, although they agreed with him politically, obviously. But what they said was, Dad or Uncle, he gave us purpose. He gave us meaning. He gave us direction. He was almost teaching us how to be a young man. To go out and get a trade. That you don't have to go to college to get a degree. You don't have to go to college to provide for your family. That you should go out and get married. That you should have a family. That you should have children. That you should go to church on Sunday. That you should direct your life for God and country and family. And that doing those things, it's what truly gives you purpose and meaning in life. And also, it's what makes you a man. That's what men are supposed to do. And so, he truly spoke to the younger generation and resonated with them in a way that no other American in my lifetime can compare to. And he preached nonviolence. By the way, now, people are combing through everything he's written, literally every clip, everything he said, every debate. They're going back 10 years, and they cannot find a single racist thing or word that he said, despite all the lies and smears that the media and the Democrats have been throwing at him. Everything is either taken out of context, snippets, just carve out 2 words and pull it out, and you don't give the first part of the sentence or the second part of the sentence so you can completely invert its meaning. Or literally they just invented, fabricated stuff that he said that he never said. He believed in peace. He believed in dignity and equality of liberty and under law for every person in America, regardless of their skin color, regardless of their gender, regardless of their sex, regardless of their religious faith. And above all, he believed in free speech and open, civil, peaceful discourse, dialogue, and debate. And ultimately, it was his words that got him killed. It was his words. Because the left could not handle the truth. And they could not handle that he spoke the truth in their bastions of indoctrination and brainwashing. And so he posed a threat to their power. And that's why they killed him. And you would think that Erica Kirk, having now lost not just her husband, but the father of her 2 very young children, her children will never see their father. They will never see their father again. Ever. You would think she would be angry. And I wouldn't blame her. Bitter. I wouldn't blame her. Revengeful. I wouldn't blame her. I really wouldn't. But instead, Listen to what she said. Roll cut 1B, Mike.
That young man, on the cross, our Savior said, "Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do." That man, that young man, I forgive him.
And it went on. The applause just went on. It just went on and on and on. She forgave Tyler Robinson with tears streaming down her face. She forgave the very man who murdered her husband. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, as I stated in my opening monologue, the memorial for Charlie Kirk yesterday was an absolute phenomenon. And apparently some say even 300,000 people showed up for it in Phoenix. And around about 70,000 were inside the stadium. Millions watched online and, of course, on television. I was watching it on Fox News. And then later we went back and forth with Fox and with Newsmax. So I was watching it on those two channels, just to hear some commentary back and forth, but primarily on Newsmax and obviously on Fox. And look, this is just the beginning, I think, of the consequences of Kirk's political murder, his ruthless assassination by the shooter, by Tyler Robinson. And to me, I think what is going to be remembered, among many things, obviously, but that Erica Kirk forgave the killer. Now, it doesn't mean she doesn't want justice. It doesn't mean that she doesn't think he should be given either life in prison or the death penalty. But what she's saying is she doesn't hate him. She doesn't hate him. And as she clearly laid out in her speech, and I'm going to play the cut, no violence. Please. She kept saying that over and over again. No violence, no retribution, no rioting, no chaos, no attacking the other side. That's not what Charlie was about. That's not what Charlie wanted. That's not what we should do. And again, I'm sorry. I'm not as good as she is. I'm just not. I'm sorry. I'm not. And I'm not as forgiving as she is. I wish I was, but I'm not. To the left, to the Dems, to the Moonbats. So that stadium memorial that we saw yesterday, that was a stadium full of Nazis now, according to you? People crying and mourning the death of an innocent man and calling for peace and calling for forgiveness and calling for love and calling for compassion and calling for freedom and a restoration of our fundamental freedoms and liberties. And to you whack jobs out there, to you on the left, to you this is a Hitler rally, a Nazi rally. You people are crazy. I'm telling you to your face, you are crazy. You're insane. You're sick. I want to play it again. This is a woman who has lost the love of her life. Her husband, who was gunned down simply for speaking the truth, simply for his words and opinions on a college campus, whose two young babies, her two young children now, will never know their father, will never have their father ever again. And this was her response. This was her response. And remember, in the wake of millions of leftists, millions of Democrats, millions of so-called progressives, the Bills in Sudbury, openly celebrating, boasting his murder. In fact, saying, let's do more. Don't stop. Keep going. The only good MAGA is a dead MAGA. And this was her response. Roll cut 1, Mike.
Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
And it just went on. By the way, we're just cutting it off because it just went on and on and on. The applause. And this is your Hitler rally. This is your rally full of fascists and authoritarians and racists and bigots and white supremacists. And by the way, she's completely right. She really is. On every level, she's completely right. That this is what Jesus does call us to do, to turn the other cheek. To forgive. Now, it doesn't mean there's no justice. Doesn't mean you don't punish. But you don't have hatred in your heart. And you don't call for hatred against others. And you don't call for retribution against others. And for violence against others. In other words, you do the exact opposite of what the left does. I'm sorry. Someone has to say it. So I'm going to say it. Now, let me be brutally honest with all of you. Like I'm in the confessional. If someone took away, I can only use this parallel. If someone took away my wife in a brutal political assassination, and I'm thinking now, let's say go back 10 years or whatever, when my children were very young, I don't know if I could have forgiven the shooter. I don't think I could have, to be honest. No. I know I should. I know that. But I don't think I could do it. Honestly, I don't. And so I want to ask all of you. For me, this is the question of the hour. And maybe the question now of our time. It is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Could you forgive the murderer, the killer of your spouse or loved one? Okay, let me ask you. It's the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. Erica Kirk did it yesterday at her memorial, at the memorial service for Charlie Kirk. It was unbelievably powerful. Its reverberations are literally still being felt by people all over the world. She forgave the murderer, the shooter, the killer of her husband. In fact, saying he was a troubled young man, exactly the kind of troubled young man that Charlie wanted to reach out to and have a dialogue with and have a discussion with. And she said, you know, as Jesus famously said on the cross, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And she said she looked into her deep spiritual recesses, deep into her heart, deep into her soul, and doing what Jesus asks us all to do, she forgave her shooter and her killer. I'm sorry, Charlie Kirk's shooter and killer. the shooter and the killer of her husband, her late husband. And so what I want to ask all of you, would you be able to forgive the murderer of your loved one the way Erica Kirk did for Tyler Robinson? A, yes. B, no. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. Again, I was very active on X last night. My handle, all one word, at the Kuhner Report. Kuhn as in national ER, at the Kuhner Report. If I had to vote honestly, no. I think it's incredible. I think it's remarkable. I think it's unbelievable. It shows an unbelievable strength and virtue of character for people like Erica Kirk who can do it, who can be a yes. But I'm being honest. If this was my wife, and, you know, my children were as well as young as, say, those children are, let's say 10 years ago, no. I know me. I would not be able to forgive the killer. I just couldn't do it. But that's me. I want to hear from you, obviously. 617-266-6868. Okay. Did you watch the memorial service? What did you make of the memorial service? Did it do justice to Charlie Kirk's memory and legacy? And the ultimate question, the poll question. What do you make of Erica Kirk's message of forgiveness? She forgave Charlie Kirk's killer. Could you? 617-266-6868. Let's go to Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Yes, I did watch that yesterday. I have to admit, though, I did watch a little of the Patriots, but they suck so bad that I just said, you know what? I'd rather watch Charlie Kirk tribute yesterday. But I have to say, I'm with you. I'm not a vengeful person. I don't seek revenge. I'm not violent. But the one thing I am for some certain things, Jeff, I'm not as forgiving as Erica Kirk. And apparently, neither was Donald Trump yesterday when he spoke. He said, I don't know how she's doing it. He goes, but I can't do it, and I'm not going to do it. And I agree with him. I agree with you. But I noticed one thing yesterday, Jeff, and I have to point this out. It's amazing how we come together for the love of somebody and to pay tributes to somebody. But the other side, it seems like the only way they come together is when they hate somebody and they want to kill them, or they want to badmouth them, or they want to embarrass them, or tear their family apart. That's the only time the left comes together. Have you noticed that, Jeff?
Oh, you're dead on. You're absolutely dead on. And Mark, I promise I'm going to give you the last word, but I got to mention this at least now. I was going to talk about it later in the show. I couldn't believe the resolution in the House. 96 Democrats, almost 100 Democrats, voted against a resolution honoring Charlie Kirk. And by the way, it also condemned political violence. And they could not vote for that. They hate Charlie Kirk that much. They literally couldn't say, no, we're going to honor him, and basically you shouldn't kill him. No, we shouldn't kill each other if we disagree with each other. And AOC, which to me will haunt her for the rest of her career and the rest of her life, AOC led the charge against the resolution. And just so that you know, Mark, there was a Minnesota state lawmaker, I briefly touched on it on this show, Melissa Hortman, who was murdered maybe about a month ago. Okay, she was a Minnesota state rep. When they introduced a resolution in the Minnesota State House to honor her, she was a Democrat, a liberal, very left-wing Democrat, and to honor her and say, we honor her and we condemn political violence of any kind, every single Republican joined every Democrat. So you see, when a liberal gets gunned down, Republicans condemn it across the board. When a conservative icon gets brutally murdered, they can't even condemn it in the House of Representatives in Congress, Mark. That's how consumed with hate they are. Final word to you.
Well, Jeff, I hate to say it, but it seems to me that you mentioned that they want us dead, and they can give two craps about us. They want us dead, but you know what, Jeff? It's okay, because I heard a staggering number yesterday during that tribute, like when they do the little excerpts in between the speakers, and I heard that they've gotten over 60,000 requests from high school students and college students all over this country to start their own chapters of TPUSA. And if that happens, Jeff, you're talking millions and millions of high school kids and college kids that are not going to vote for the Democrats. And they're in some deep doo-doo.
Amen. You nailed it, Mark, as usual. Mark, thank you very much for that call. And by the way, there are now millions over the last 11 days since the assassination of Kirk, and just the horrific reaction and response by these Democrats. The callousness, the stupidity, the hatefulness, the sickening response. Millions now are registering as Republicans. Literally millions. So, and after Erica Kirk yesterday forgave her husband's shooter and murderer in such a powerful, compassionate, and with such grace, but in the way that she delivered it, the left has lost the country. I'm telling you, the left has lost the country. I mean, they're coming across as absolute monsters. And I think ultimately, this is unmasking who they are. Truly, who they are deep down in their souls. The hate, the bile, the poison, the ideological fanaticism, the whole, the evil, the sort of the evil political nature of everything that they're about. I think Mark nailed it. They only unite in hatred against an individual or against a cause or against a family or whatever. Erica Kirk steals the show. 6:49 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's Bulldozer. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, as many are pointing out, believe me, I'm not original in this. She almost had an impossible task yesterday to meet the moment. It was a religious event primarily, not a political event, although it did get political at times. And 70,000 people were inside the stadium. It was packed. Literally, every seat was taken. There were hundreds of thousands outside of the stadium. Millions and millions watched on television. Many millions more watched around the world. And Erica Trump stole the show. There's no other way to say it. Her speech was beyond powerful, intellectually, emotionally. Her delivery was perfect. And she has a gift. I'm telling you, this woman has a gift. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, it's almost like another Charlie Kirk. She's talking, in theory, it's the 70,000 people in the stadium, but she has the ability to make you feel like she's talking directly to you, one-on-one. And Charlie Kirk had that same ability. She's able to connect with people. She's able to resonate with people. She's got an incredibly attractive personality, a personality that just radiates light and goodness and decency. And, I don't even want to go down this road. I don't, but it's got to be said. I think she's the perfect person to be leading Turning Point USA now. But I could definitely see her. People said Charlie Kirk would be president one day. or minimum vice president, that he had an incredible career ahead of him. I was watching her and I'm like, this woman could be president of the United States one day. Now, I know she's got 2 very young children, now without a father, which makes it even much harder. So she's going to have a lot of balls to juggle. This is going to be a lot. She's got to run this massive organization, which is clearly now on a mission that is growing exponentially. Campuses, high schools now, thousands and thousands want chapters set up all over the country in cities and towns. You're looking at millions and millions of new people now pouring into Turning Point USA. She's also the chairman of the board, so she's really taking the reins from Charlie Kirk. But I could see Erica Kirk become a powerful political leader in the near future. She met the moment and then some. Just very quick, as the lines are jammed. Listen now to Erica Kirk describing when she had to identify Charlie Kirk's body at the morgue. There wasn't a dry eye in the house. Roll cut 2, Mike.
I also saw on his lips the faintest smile, and that told me something important. It revealed to me a great mercy from God in this tragedy. When I saw that, it told me Charlie didn't suffer. Even the doctor told me it was something so instant that even if Charlie had been shot in the operating room itself, nothing could have been done. There was no pain, there was no fear, no agony. One moment Charlie was doing what he loved, arguing and debating on campus, fighting for the gospel and truth in front of a big crowd. And then he blinked and saw his Savior in paradise.
I got choked up. I mean, when I saw that and I heard that, and I have to say this, I almost feel selfish for saying this. So again, if it comes across that way, please forgive me, because it's not my intention. But it comforted me. I mean, she's the widow, for God's sake. The one who needs comforting is her and her children and her family. So, but the fact that when she said he didn't feel any pain, there was no agony, there was no fear. You know, that's kind of been bothering me for the last 10, 11 days. Is, was he alive for a couple of hours? Because he still, technically wasn't, killed on the spot. They rushed him to the hospital, and they said even for a while they thought they had stabilized him. There was even maybe a possibility he could pull through it. And then, of course, he died on the operating table. And so part of what's haunted me and bothered me is I'm like, please, God, please tell me he didn't suffer. He didn't deserve that. And to be thinking, this is what I was thinking, to be thinking that this man is, my wife, my children, my family, my parents, my siblings, I won't even get a chance to say goodbye to them, say I love them, as you're fighting for your life and asking yourself, like, what did I do to deserve this? Like, well, what did I do? I just sat there and said, let's debate. Let's have a discussion. Let's have a talk. That's all I said. And I give you the microphone and you can say anything you want to say. And so when she said he never suffered at all, it was like a blink, and then he was with his, with God, with his Savior in paradise, with Jesus in paradise, in heaven. I don't know. It really comforted me. And I was like, good. Anyway, I'm just giving you my honest reaction. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let's go to Dave, our Western PA constitutionalist correspondent right there near the Pittsburgh area. Dave, thanks for holding, and as always, welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I'll tell you, Jeff, I got nothing but the utmost respect and love for Mrs. Kirk and the moxie to do what she did to forgive him, Jeff. And, Jeff, I just want to clarify something. I don't know if you made this in your opening monologue. I missed a little bit of it. But, Jeff, the left wing needs to understand, well, because, they can't comprehend much like the Bills in Sudbury. They're dumber than a pile of rocks. They make Kamala Harris look smart, God forbid. Jeff, just because she forgave him doesn't mean he's still not going to face the death penalty, Jeff. A lot of liberals say, oh, well, she forgave him and all the kissy-cutesy time. No, he still has to pay with his life because since we're talking Bible, Jeff, and God and Jesus, Yeshua, my Savior, Genesis 9:6 makes it very clear in the Old Testament that we were created in the image of our Lord God, our Creator, and that He requires our blood. Whoever sheddeth man's blood, the King James Version, whoever sheddeth man's blood, his blood will be required because God made man in His image, period. Plain and simple.
Oh, Dave, you're not 100. You're not even 1,000. You're 1,000,000% correct. You're right. The fact that she forgave him, that's a personal act on her part. As you put it, an incredibly noble, just a very virtuous, compassionate act, really of Christian grace and forgiveness and humility. But that's nothing to do with the trial. That has nothing to do, that's the state, that's government, that's public. That's something different. And you cannot allow someone like him to roam free. You can't. That's a very dangerous man. Tyler Robinson is an incredibly dangerous man. And to me, what he did was beyond, publicly now, unforgivable. Unforgivable. That was an attack on free speech. That was an attack on the Bill of Rights. That was literally, look, I'm going to play the cut because she talks about, and I'll play it just a little bit later, Dave, where she says, thank you that no one went out and committed violence after Charlie's death. Nobody shot somebody. Nobody rioted. There was none of that. She said, thank you. What Tyler Robinson did could have sparked a civil war. Let's be honest among ourselves. Or at a bare minimum, it could have sparked a lot more political violence. More assassinations, riots, looting, burning, people getting maimed, people getting injured, people getting killed. He could have unleashed a bloodbath. What he did, I'm sorry, you cannot tolerate that in any civilized society. And then they say, well, okay, keep him behind bars for life. So what? He then becomes like a rallying symbol for many on the radical left? Because that's what they're going to see him as. He's already being celebrated in quarters of the left as a folk hero like Luigi Mangione, the guy who shot that healthcare CEO. So no. If you want to end political violence and save lives, you have to make an example of someone like him. You're going to go and you're going to get the death penalty. And whether it's by lethal injection or the firing squad, because they have both in Utah, I don't care. But it's got to be swift. It's got to be decisive. And it has to be seen that this will be your fate if you do this again. And so I'm with you all the way. Dave, in terms of the memorial service itself, what did you think of it?
And President Trump, he was his typical self. I love it. But, Jeff, in forgiveness, I believe in forgiveness too as a Christian. And now if somebody took my family member, Jeff, I believe in vengeance, an eye for an eye. If somebody ever hurt my wife or somebody I loved, I'd have to go find him, Jeff, because I don't trust law enforcement. I mean, not all of them are bad, but I'm just saying, Jeff, I would want him to find him myself. Because that's the Marine in me. You know what I mean, Jeff?
No, I hear. So, you're in the overwhelming majority, Dave. Look. Again, I'm not you. Seriously, Dave. You're a tough guy. You're a Marine. You served. You took bullets for this country. Okay, I never did. So please, I can't shine your shoes. Okay, when it comes to toughness and courage. But I'm just being honest. If someone killed my wife, especially when we had 2 young children, but even now, I'd want to hunt him down. I mean, Sarah, come on. Of course. I'll never be the same. My children will never be the same. What that is an incalculable loss. It's immeasurable. So yeah, no, I would listen. I would want revenge. At a bare minimum, I'd be like, catch him and I want the death penalty. So no, what she did is absolutely remarkable, and that's a remarkable woman because she was married to a remarkable man. Dave, thank you so much for that call. I really appreciate it. 617. You can tell her faith, that's not just window dressing. It's not a show. It's not an act. She really has imbibed, she's taken, as they say, she's taken Jesus into her heart. She really, you can see that they live their Christian faith. They breathe their Christian faith. They take in their Christian faith. They try to make it animate everything that they do. And again, she's like a beacon of light in the darkness. 616. Look, really, I've never said this before. Whenever there's a group of speakers and Donald Trump is there, Trump always steals the show. And don't get me wrong, I thought his speech was very strong, really compelling. I thought he made brilliant points. And I love the fact that he was very honest. He said, look, what she just said is remarkable. He goes, I'm not as forgiving. I can't be as forgiving. He was honest. He goes, no, I'm sorry. I can't forgive him for what he did. I can't. God forgive me, but I can't do it. And so I thought that was also very, because he kind of spoke for a lot of us when he said that. I'm like, I'm with you, Mr. President. I'm the same. So please, I'm not saying his speech was bad. Quite the contrary. I thought it was a great speech. But she just stole the show. She did almost the impossible. It's an impossible moment to meet, and she met it. That, to me, is what was incredible about her speech. People will be talking about her speech for years to come. Agree, disagree, I'm just giving you my honest take. 617-266-6868. In fact, very quickly, here's what she said about God's mercy and what Charlie Kirk would have wanted in the wake of his assassination. Again, think of this, her words now, compared to all the lies the Democrats and the media have been throwing at Charlie Kirk and saying about him. Hitler, fascist, racist, bigot, hate speech. He was a hater. He was a hater. Listen to what she said. This is Erica Kirk. Roll cut 4, Mike.
But most of all, God's mercy and God's love have been revealed to me these past 10 days. After Charlie's assassination, we didn't see violence. We didn't see rioting.
And what's most telling is not just her beautiful words and moving and powerful words. Look at the reaction from the audience. Remember, okay, to show you how sick and demented they are, what liberals are telling you, what the media is telling you, what the Dems are telling you, is that this was a Hitler rally, a rally of fascists and white supremacists. And when she says that there was no riots, that there was no violence, that everything was peaceful in the reaction to Charlie Kirk's death from conservatives and people who admired Charlie, and everybody starts clapping, standing ovation, clapping. Their lies were exposed and their narrative was destroyed for the entire world to see. I said it earlier, I'm going to say it again. The left has lost the country. Agree, disagree. Rob in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Rob.
I went through 2 travel packs of Kleenex watching that yesterday. That was the most moving thing I think I've ever seen. But anyways, I listen while I travel around to the left wing, one of the left wing satellite shows in little bits because my head will explode if it's in too big a chunk. But also the mainstream media. I have not seen or heard one recalcitrant, one remorseful, one liberal denouncing. Not even since the trannies have killed so many people and caused so much violence, which isn't getting recorded as tranny violence. It is a national problem. There is a category of people out there causing us violence, and the trannies are it. And not one of them has stepped forward and say, we got to stop this garbage. This isn't what we're all about. I mean, CNN and MSNBC would put them on TV in a heartbeat if one of them wanted to step forward. They haven't. They're not asking for forgiveness. They're not asking for their own people to chill out. It's astounding to me. But
no, Rob, look, that to me, and I'm so happy you called. I really am, because you're saying, and you have the guts to say, what so many around the country are thinking. They haven't missed a beat. They're not reflecting at all. One single bit. They just keep going. So just so that you know, Rachel Maddow, as I like to call her, Rachel Madcow, went on the air, and they're now calling for a new protest against Trump, a national march against Trump. Another no king, like he's a dictator. Again, this whole dictator garbage, they're not going to let it go. They're not going to let it go. So another no king's march. I think in 3 weeks? So they're not going to stop. And near your neck of the woods. I mean, I don't know where in New Hampshire you live, Rob. It just says New Hampshire on the board. But in Nashua, at the Sky Meadow Country Club. I've been to the Sky Meadow Country Club. It's a beautiful country. It's a golf course, obviously. Beautiful country club. Beautiful. And there's a lot of weddings, receptions, events that are held there. There was a beautiful wedding just on Saturday night. And they went to the country club for a reception. Before the first dance between the bride and the groom, this is Nashua. This is Nashua. And for those of you listening around the country, because we have a huge national audience, it's about, 40, 45 miles north of Boston. I don't want to say minutes because the traffic can be insane. So 40, 45 miles north, slightly northwest of Boston, okay? And hardly anything happens in Nashua, and I don't mean that as a put down. It's a very safe place. At a wedding reception party, a radical left-wing terrorist dressed in black, wearing a mask, broke in, yelling, "Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!" And as everybody said, all they heard was boom, 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 boom. He shot up the wedding party. 6 people were injured, 2 seriously wounded, 1 person, a wedding guest, dead. Robert Stephen DeCesar, dead, 59 years of age. He died protecting his wife and his daughter. He literally used his body to shield his wife and his daughter. They're freaking shooting up wedding parties now. Where's the local media in New Hampshire on this? That this is left-wing terrorism. They're reporting on the shooting, yes. But that this is left-wing terrorism, nowhere. Here in Boston, nowhere. Around the country, nowhere. Okay, so just to make a clear clarification, because many of you are calling in saying, Jeff, this was not the shooting that took place Saturday night in Nashua, New Hampshire. This was an act of left-wing terrorism. There's no question. There's no question. Doesn't matter how the media tries to spin it, how local authorities are trying to, spin and suppress this. The shooter, who's been identified now, Hunter Nadeau, Nadeau is how you spell his last name, 23 years of age. This was at a wedding reception, at a party for the bride and the groom. So it was at the Nashua Country Club, the Sky Meadow Country Club. As I said, I've been there once. I know for sure I've been there once. It is beautiful. It really is. It's a stunning country club. It's a beautiful golf course. I've been even inside Sky Meadow, and great place to hold events and wedding receptions. Anyway, so the shooter broke into the restaurant where the reception was being held and yelled out, "Free, free Palestine." And then, apparently, according to police, started to shoot into the crowd. And a wedding guest was there sitting at a table with his wife and daughter. I believe his mother was there as well. And so they were invited by the bride, the family of the bride and the groom. And he apparently shielded his wife and daughter. Robert Stephen DeCesar, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. If I'm mispronouncing it or mangling it, I apologize. Decesare is his last name. And he was shot dead. Two others were also wounded critically. They will survive from bullet wounds. And then there were 6 others that were injured, but those were non-shooting related. These were people that were ducking, trying to run out the door, run through the kitchen. There was absolute panic and pandemonium. One of the wedding guests, who is now a hero, was able to grab a chair and smash it over the shooter. Just broke it and hit the shooter. And the shooter fell to the ground. He lost his gun, and they were able to control him. And the police came and arrested him. Originally, there were media reports that there were not one, but 2 shooters. And so in southern New Hampshire, northern Massachusetts, for several hours, there was an intense manhunt. The police they issued shelter-in-place orders. They were trying to find the second shooter. However, they looked at the video surveillance. I'm just telling you what they reported to the public. And they say it ended up being just one shooter and not 2. He was dressed completely in black, wearing a mask. And, of course, shouted, "Free, free Palestine." So my point being, this was an act of left-wing terrorism. They haven't stopped. They haven't stopped. They did it the weekend of the Charlie Kirk Memorial. On Friday, in Sacramento, very quickly, another well-known anti-Trump leftist. You can look at his Facebook page and his X account, calling for Trump to be killed, calling him a king, a dictator, the whole 9 yards. Shot up an ABC building, an ABC affiliate in Sacramento. Just shot up the building, shot through a window, 3 shots, boom, 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 hoping to kill somebody inside. Why? To protest the firing of Jimmy Kimmel. Because the firing of Jimmy Kimmel was the act of a fascist and the act of a dictator, according to what the media is claiming. So, of course, he's got to go shoot up a building because he's fighting a dictatorship now in his crazy, deranged mind. So, as I said on X last night, left-wing violence, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. It's exploding. So, as we say, peace, 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 forgiveness, 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 the left has declared war on America. That's the fact. I'm sorry, those are the facts. And my fear is, who's going to be the next to die? That's why I support Trump designating Antifa a terrorist organization and go after every single one of these radical left-wing groups that are pushing and promoting violence and terror. Because I'm telling you, my friends, they're not letting up an inch. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Jerry on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Jerry, and welcome.
Jeff, God bless you. I'm glad you're okay.
Thank you, Jerry.
Jeff, I am heartbroken over this. I ever since last Wednesday, I've done nothing but cry. I'd be sitting there and I just start crying, thinking about Charlie. It's not like I knew him or anything. But, Jeff, I want to get on to 4 points here. This is a war against us. They haven't declared war. The war's already begun. They want to kill us all. They've made it clear. They've said it in videos. But, Jeff, they have to do this. The globalists, this is their plan. If they do away with all of us heterosexuals and people that are quote-unquote normies, then it makes them easier to go along with their communist one-world government of control over the people. But, Jeff, I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen numerous videos of these transgender people. Do you know what they believe? You're sitting down, right?
Yes, go ahead, Jerry.
They believe that during World War II that the Nazis, the first thing they did was round up transgenders and immigrants. This is what they believe. They actually wholeheartedly, full-throated believe this. And I'm not just talking about one person. I've seen numerous videos with these people saying this. But, Jeff, that memorial yesterday, can I ask you a question? You know, but you're an inside guy. I have some connections, but you're really inside. What is it that Sean Duffy and his wife have against Tucker Carlson? Do you know the backstory to that?
Well, they can't stand the fact that he's now become a leading critic of Israel. I mean, in a nutshell, that's what it is. It's they're attacking him for January 6th, that he showed the footage, and they're going after him now because he's become a critic of Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel's war in Gaza. And that's making him now persona non grata, not just with Sean Duffy, but frankly with many within the Trump administration. So that's the short answer to your question, Jerry. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, listen now to Erica Kirk talking about her husband, Charlie Kirk, her late husband, at an absolutely, just a spectacular speech that she delivered. There's just no other way to say it. Listen to her saying Charlie Kirk had a bargain with God, and he wanted God to use him in a certain way. And this was the essence of who Charlie was. Roll cut 5, Mike.
He quoted one of his favorite Bible verses, Isaiah chapter 6, verse 8. Here I am, Lord. Send me. After Charlie finished, I met him backstage, and I spoke to him, and I'll never forget this. I said, Charlie, baby, please talk to me next time before you say that statement. Because when you say something like that, there is so much power in that verse. When you say, here I am, Lord, use me, God will take you up on that. And he did with Charlie.
I mean, it was applause after applause. Honestly, it was brilliant point after brilliant point, line after line. She truly met the moment. I have to tell you, I just can't stress enough just what an incredible speech it was. It wasn't a home run. It was a grand slam. And, she's right. Kirk really saw himself as doing the Lord's will and being an instrument of God. He, in a way, like a true Christian, he surrendered himself to God. And even if it meant that he would be martyred, that he would be, in a way, like Jesus, crucified, that you go where you have to go, and he went into college campuses. He knew the risk. He got death threats all the time, all the time. And he didn't care for a lot of security. He wanted to be as close and direct with the students as possible. He wanted them to feel welcomed so they could have a back and forth and a dialogue. And in the end, it was the power of his message. It was his truth. It was his words that proved too much for the radical left, and that's why they had to kill him. 617-266-6868 is the number. Did you watch the memorial? What did you make of the memorial? And let me ask you the ultimate question. Erica Kirk forgives the killer, the shooter of her husband, Tyler Robinson. Could you forgive the killer of your loved one or your spouse? 617-266-6868. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I did watch the whole Charlie Kirk memorial service, and the whole thing was powerful from start to finish. And Erica Kirk was especially powerful. And as far as forgiveness, Jeff, I'm a yes on that, but only through my faith in God. I would not be able to do that within myself. And it's clear to me that Erica's faith in God is what enables her to forgive.
Andy, I got to ask you this, and I'm almost reluctant to ask because this is all about Charlie, and it should be about Charlie. But she honored him, as you put it, so powerfully and so effectively and honestly so gracefully and so brilliantly. Are we watching? Is this A Star Is Born? Are we watching now? It's almost like a miracle. The spirit of Charlie Kirk, the message of Charlie Kirk, the meaning of Charlie Kirk almost passed on to his wife to continue his message, his legacy, his mission. What say you, Andy?
I think that's absolutely what we saw. Because what a successful leader does is they're able to reproduce themselves in others. That's what we're seeing there.
Interesting. Andy, as always, thank you very much for that call. Tommy in Brockton. Thanks for holding, Tommy, and as always, welcome.
Yeah, I watched that program for Charlie yesterday from beginning to end. The first young man that spoke really moved me. And, when Erica Kirk started speaking, I just tears is all I can say. Tears. I just can't imagine the loss that she's going to feel for the rest of her life. I've been told for the last 10 years or so that you're a Trump supporter, you're a Nazi, you're a fascist, blah, blah, blah. Okay. And what she said in her address to the crowd and the nation, nobody rioted after Charlie Kirk's death or his assassination. You mentioned earlier that a TV station was shot in Sacramento a day after, that was on Friday, the day after there were protests at that TV station for the canceling of Jimmy Kimmel. Out in Salt Lake City, about a week ago, there was an incendiary device found at a Fox News outlet that never went off. I'm sorry, but those aren't Trump supporters doing that. I have a message to President Trump. He needs to go to Memphis and meet with black residents not activists in the social justice movement, not teachers, but meet with regular people from the black section of Memphis and just take questions from those people. If Trump were to do that, and that was broadcast nationally, and you were to hear a young woman, a mother saying, I can't even let my kids on the porch. I have to keep my window shades pulled because I'm afraid we're going to get shot. And these people are living in total fear of them, of living in those neighborhoods because of the gang violence. President Trump, please go into Memphis and just talk to people, because the national public radio crowd is just so condescending towards people like these. They take people like Al Sharpton and other so-called activists as if they really know what's going on in the so-called hood. No, they don't. These are people that are funded by NGO organizations. But anyway, I digress. That you're right. This violence is only going to get worse. And Jeff, on Saturday in Brockton, at the intersection of Pleasant Street and West Street, there was a protest of a bunch of elderly white people, and one of the signs said, "No more death threats." And I thought, oh, this is great, you know? So I circled my pickup truck around with my wife, and I stopped because it was just jam-packed. And I asked this one woman, and I happened to see a No Kings protester, no Kings sign, and then another one that said fascist. And I said, and another one that said Jimmy Kimmel firing. I said, you do realize why Jimmy Kimmel was fired? And she goes, yes, Trump's a fascist. I said, no, he blatantly lied about who the shooter was and his intent.
Oh, you're right. No, you're completely right, Tommy. That's the thing. They're so brainwashed and propagandized. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470. Audience is on fire this morning. This is from 703. Jeff, what I find most disturbing about the left's reaction to the suspension of Jimmy Kimmel is, imagine being more upset about a canceled TV show than a political assassination and still thinking you're a decent human being. You know, 703, I agree with you. You can see it. Democrats and, you know, these moonbats, those on the left, are much more upset about Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air. By the way, a show with no ratings, okay? No ratings. Than they are about the murder of an innocent man. The cold-blooded political murder of an innocent man. And they're going more and more about Jimmy Kimmel, who, by the way, is a gazillionaire. He's got 3, not 1, not 2, 3 mansions. Who made over $16 million a year. And I'm talking he made over $16 million for over, 10, 15 years. The guy's worth something like $200 million. Like, he's going to be okay. But, hey, he's not going to be out on the streets. You know, he and his kids won't be eating hand to mouth. Like, relax. Anyway, it's unbelievable. This is from 508. Jeff, the left keeps defending Jimmy Kimmel. Even now, in the wake of Charlie Kirk's memorial, they can't stop talking about Jimmy Kimmel. And yet I am surprised that this guy who once wore blackface and calls large-breasted women to jump on trampolines lasted as long as he did in liberal Hollywood. Well, that's the other thing. They're also sweeping under the rug his disgusting past. See, notice it's not, in the left's view, among so many Democrats and the media, it's not Charlie Kirk that's the martyr. No. It's Jimmy Kimmel. You can't make this up. I'm serious. Okay. One more. This is from 617. Jeff, please think about this. The left murders an innocent man and then celebrates his death and then calls for more political violence against their opponents. And they're the victims? If you watch CNN or MSNBC, and many Democrats, that's exactly the narrative they're spinning. Like somehow they're the ones. So the fascist right is rising after Charlie Kirk. Look at that memorial. It's a rally of fascists. I'm telling you, it's frightening. Now, remember, I spoke about this last week. There is a very popular liberal podcaster. I mean, liberal. I mean, I use that term in the way it's talked about today. He's a communist. Like most liberals and progressives, he's a Marxist and he's a communist. But his name is Stephen Bennell. He goes by AKA Destiny. And he's got millions of people who follow him on his podcast. And if you remember, he was the one that cheered on the murder of Charlie Kirk, celebrated it. In fact, saying we need more murders of prominent conservatives because conservatives need to be afraid to go to rallies. They need to be afraid to speak in public. They need to be afraid to give speeches or debate people. So the way to keep them afraid and constantly cowering is if you keep killing them. Well, here is what he wrote in reaction to the memorial. Quote, this Charlie Kirk, quote unquote, memorial is indistinguishable from a Nazi rally. And I can't say the F-bomb on the air, I get fined. And F anyone who wants to pretend it's not. Now, it's not just that he says something as utterly disgusting and frankly unhinged. Unhinged. This guy's crazy. Okay? Unhinged. He's insane. He's insane. If what you saw yesterday is a Hitler rally, the elevator does not go to the top. You have some serious screws loose. But it's how many likes that post of his got. How many views? How many liberals and leftists and Democrats applauded it? Agreed with it. You can't coexist with these people. How can you peacefully coexist with them? And again, I'm not calling for violence on them. Far from it. We're the nonviolent ones. But normalcy, decency, literally love, compassion, and forgiveness. That's what was on display yesterday. If that's a Nazi rally, then everything, literally everything is a Nazi rally. That wedding reception in Nashua, where the bride and the groom, before they're about to do their first dance, that's a Nazi rally. Free Palestine. Just mow them down. Anything that's normal, a school, whatever, a family together, an ordinary debate, anything that's normal and decent is not, it's fascism, it's Nazism. We have to defeat these people. We have to stand up to them. We have to call them out. We have to. We can no longer turn a blind eye. We can't. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Russ in Boston. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Good morning, Charlie Kirk country. God dwells in our land every single day. Yesterday was a tribute to a great American and his relationship with God, family, and country. Do not confuse forgiveness with the need for punishment. My best example, St. John Paul forgave the person who shot him, but the Italian government did not let him run free. He was punished, for sure, okay, because he was an evil person and he deserved to be punished. as a practicing Roman Catholic, how can any practicing Roman Catholic be so stupid and support the godless Democratic Party that's led by evil people? To them, God is dead. Now, the spirit of Charlie Kirk lives on in his wife. 2 days after her husband was assassinated, she stood next to Charlie's empty chair, and it reminded me of the riderless soldier, which is a tribute to the dead soldier, the riderless horse, okay? And to me, that cheer meant the same exact thing. And there was no doubt in my mind, this woman now is going to dedicate the rest of her life to keep the spirit of Charlie alive. And Jeff, you know, you talk about forgiveness, okay? Believe me when I say this. I'm a practicing Roman Catholic, but I can never forgive anybody that has done any harmful thing to my family. And I will say this about forgiveness. On this radio station, Tom Kuhner asked me about torture. And if a terrorist had information that could lead to saving my family, okay, I could force myself by envisioning my family members in caskets. And Jeff, believe me, I could commit an act of evil by taking a blowtorch and starting at the toes of a terrorist until I got the information I needed to save my family. And yes, good people like myself, people of God like myself, can be forced to commit acts of evil under certain circumstances.
Russ, honestly, I think that's most of us, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I agree with you. People would ask me that during the whole waterboarding debate, and I would say, well, would you be willing to use torture to save millions of lives? Would you be willing to use torture to save your family? To me, you're immoral if you're not willing to do what it takes to save your family, your country, millions of people. You're dealing with evil. That's what terrorists are. They're evil. They're wicked, evil people who are willing to do wicked, heinous, unspeakable crimes. So to be soft in front of them, or to be naive about them, or to be cowardly in the face of them, I believe is a sin. I do. I'm not a pacifist. I've never been a pacifist. To me, pacifism is a sin. You're basically saying you're going to allow evil people to kill you, which means you have no respect for your own life, and kill everybody around you, which means you have no respect or care for anybody else's life. So I'm with you all the way. No, what to me is just remarkable about her, and I agree with you, there's almost something saintly. There's like a saintly quality to it, where we know the immense personal price this poor woman has paid, and what her husband, her late husband, meant to her, and meant to her two dear children, and meant to everyone in her family and to his family. And for her to come out and say, because my Lord and Savior asks me to, I will forgive him as well. In other words, I'm not going to let hate brew in my heart. And what she's really saying is, please, no violence. Please, no retribution. Please, I don't want you to hurt anyone on the other side, the left, in the name of my husband. If that's not who he was about, that's not what we're about. Honestly, Russ, it's Martin Luther King. I mean, that's what it is, really. That's the only thing I can think of in the American context. He was the same. He believed in nonviolence. He believed in peace. He believed in forgiveness. He believed in redemption. He was a deeply Christian man, although he was very flawed in many ways in his personal life. But, let that go. He truly believed in the teachings of the gospel. And that was Charlie Kirk, and that's Erica Kirk. And, she doesn't just, talk the talk. She walks the walk. And that's what I thought was so, I don't know, almost superhuman. I mean, I don't want to overstate it here, but it really was, it was transcendental. And that's why she got such an applause when she said it. It was just so powerful and so moving. I remember, Russ, probably you remember it as well. I did a story about a police officer, this was in Texas, who literally, maybe had too many drinks, but made the mistake of going to the wrong apartment on the wrong floor. And the door happened to be open, but it wasn't her apartment. She lived on a different floor. And so she comes into the apartment, and she sees a young African man watching television on the couch. And this police officer, who happened to be white, thought, oh my God, someone just broke into my apartment. This guy's, what's he doing in my apartment? And then she said, get out, get out, get out. And of course, he's like, what do you mean get out? And she thought he had something on him. Anyway, she shot him. She shot him. She killed him. It was clearly an accidental shooting, but it was still shooting. It was a murder. And I remember during the trial, the victim's younger brother, the mother was very angry, but the victim's younger brother on the stand, because you could see that the police officer was weeping and crying. Like, you can tell she didn't mean to kill him. It was all one big misunderstanding. And she knows now she's going to have to live with this for the rest of her life, and she fears her soul is going to be damned. Remember, if she's a Christian, I'm going to go to hell. Like, this is going to haunt me now for the rest of eternity. All eternity. Forget my life. And he says to her, I forgive you. He's a Christian. The younger brother was a Christian of the victim. And he said, I forgive you. And he said, to be honest, what I feel right now is I just want to come and just give you a hug. And the whole courtroom was stunned. I mean, just stunned. You would think he'd be angry, he'd be yelling, he'd be screaming, he'd be, profanities, he'd be insulting, and everybody would understand. Instead, he got up and he hugged her. And she kind of collapsed in his arms, almost like a child. And he's consoling her. And then the judge, who happened to be black, African American, came over and gave the police officer, at that very moment, a Bible. And said, Jesus forgives. If you ask for forgiveness, Jesus will forgive you. And literally gave the police officer a Bible. I've never forgotten that. That was years ago. I've never, ever forgotten that. Ever. I'm telling you, it has stayed with me. Number one, I couldn't be that good. I just couldn't. I couldn't be that forgiving. I couldn't. But what I saw in that courtroom, honest to God, was the best of America. The best, the absolute best. And of course, the police officer got punished. He has to be punished. They threw the book at her. You have to throw the book at her. That was murder. That man did not deserve to die, period. He was an innocent victim. And she's going to spend the rest of her life in jail. But they thought of her soul. Because part of it was they could see, I mean, the woman was really, she's going to get, you thought she was going to get a nervous breakdown. You can see on her, like, she's not this grinning sociopath. I mean, the woman is, she's not a victim. I'm not saying that, but just, you can tell the woman was just so choked up, so heartbroken over what she had done. She knows what she did was wrong and evil, and she's going to pay an immense price. But still, the whole thing, it was just, it's why I'm telling you this is the greatest country in the world, period. That's it. I'm sorry. There's nothing else to say. Really, Russ. And what Erica Kirk did yesterday, it was Christ-like. And you rarely see that anymore. At least not in public. Thank you so much for that call, Russ. As always, I love your honesty. Thanks again, Russ. Becky in Oregon. Thanks for holding, Becky, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. I'm so thankful that you're back and that you're okay and healing.
Thank you, Becky.
And I wanted to be lazy and not call, but I felt like I didn't have a choice. So I'm just going to, these are the words of Jesus from the Bible. I'm not trying to preach to anybody, but I felt like this was important, like, everybody. Okay, this is right after, this is in Matthew 6:14 and 15, just two short verses, and it's right after he says, in this manner, therefore pray, and he starts with the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer. So immediately after that is verse 14, and it says, for if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. And verse 15, but if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. And the way Google, because I knew that verse was in there, and boy, you can just, if you know a verse, you can just Google it, and it tells you right there. It was Matthew 6:15, and it said, the way Google put it, our forgiveness, us being forgiven, is conditional on us forgiving them. So that's all I wanted to say. And also, I guess we have to forgive that stupid bus driver, your bus driver.
Yeah, no, I forgave him a long time. They're just bruised ribs. I'll be okay. I'll survive. No, but Becky, I'm so happy you mentioned that point, because you're right. In the Lord's Prayer itself, you're right. It commands forgiveness. In other words, if you want to be forgiven for your sins, you have to forgive others. And look, I'll be honest with you. There's been a lot of things done against me personally that have really hurt over the years. And yeah, I do forgive them. It takes a bit of time, not right away, but it's an act of will. What I'm saying is, I got to do it. I know I have to do it. The Lord commands me to do it. Hell, every time I do the Our Father, it says right there, I have to forgive. I have to forgive. And, but it's will. It's like almost I'm thinking it and I'm trying to force it on myself. And, and whenever I get flashes of anger, I say, come on, bury it, push it away. What she did, it came from within her soul. It came from deep within her heart. Maybe, you say, well, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, she'd say, okay, I forgive him. And you say, well, that's beautiful. I understand. But to do it so quickly, while everything is still, how do I say this? He hasn't been buried yet, for God's sake. The wound is so fresh. Her wound. And the children. And the way she did it so authentically. Emotion, not just like the way I do it, when it's an act of will. Like I gotta, okay, God, please give me the strength to forgive. Please give me the strength to forgive. Please, please, please. It's like I'm forcing it. And I'm almost like intellectually, like, come on, you have to do this. So just come on, do it. The way she did it, emotionally, spiritually, from the inner recesses of her heart and her soul, with true conviction, she truly has pity for the assassin. She truly, you're going to burn in hell. I'm praying for your soul. Yeah, you took my husband, but my husband's in a much better place. Yeah, he was taken from us too soon, no question. I'm going to really miss him. My children are really going to miss him. What you've done is something very bad. There's no question. But my husband is in eternity. He's in paradise, as she put it. He's in heaven. He made it. You're going to burn, man. You're going to burn the pit of hell. And it's almost like, do you understand what you've done and what you're facing? My husband, you're exactly the kind of young lost man that my husband made it his mission to go to college campuses to reach and try to potentially save. And she's almost like taking pity on him, not in a condescending way, but really just like, I'm praying for your soul. Like really, I forgive you because the fate that's in store for you, it's unimaginable. Look, she stole the show. There's no other way to put it. I've never seen, at least in public, I've never seen a speech like that in my life. 617-266-6868 is the number. I'm sorry. I keep repeating myself, but it's the truth. Really, it truly is. Best audience in the business. I know I'm like a tape, but I'm sorry, it's the truth. Please listen to this text. 70470, if you want to text the Kuhner Man, 70470. It's one of the most profound text messages I've ever received. And it's not just a brilliant point. It truly is. It's an amazing point. Now, it's a tad long, so I'm just going to get to the essence of it. Jeff, the act of forgiveness is one of the most difficult challenges Christ calls Christians to do. Everything within our flesh wants to resist doing it. It's even harder than laying down one's own pride. But we are called to forgive, remembering that Christ has forgiven us for our sins. And he goes, it's the key to spiritual growth. And he's right, or whatever, 603 is right. But then 603 goes on to say this, and this is so true and so profound. And it's really, I almost feel like the spirit of Charlie Kirk is now living through this text message. But there is another reason Jesus calls us to forgive. If we hold on to that unforgiveness, it will fill our hearts with hatred and will eventually eat us up inside. It has been said that, quote, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to die, unquote. It will eventually consume you. Yesterday, Erica Kirk demonstrated for the entire world what we are called to do in even the most difficult of situations. And we would all be wise to take her example to heart, myself included. Magnificent. Magnificent. Because it's so true. So true. I've known people in my life, I don't want to say who just couldn't forgive. And unforgiveness, as 603 points out, that hatred, that bitterness, that constant longing for revenge and retribution, it truly is a poison. I'm telling you, it just eats you up. It consumes you. It controls your life. And I'm like, no, you believe it or not, you've lost. The person who committed this offense has really won. Because look at you, you can't stop thinking about it. It dominates so much of your life, nonstop, every day. So in a way, you know, what Christ is saying, and what Erica Kirk did yesterday, is don't put that burden on yourself. Don't drink that toxic poison for you. It's not just for the, for the person that you're forgiving, but ultimately for you. Let it go for you. 617-266-6868. Okay, let me throw this. The lines are jammed, but I want to throw this log on the fire. In fact, you know what? Let me play this cut first. That will really set up the log on the fire. Mike, do me a favor. Play cut 100. Go.
He left this world without regrets. He did 100% of what he could every day. But I want you to know something. Charlie died with incomplete work, but not with unfinished business. Charlie and I were united in purpose. His passion was my passion, and now his mission is my mission. Everything that Turning Point USA built through Charlie's vision and hard work, we will make 10 times greater through the power of his memory.
In other words, his spirit will live on through me. As she put it, I thought very eloquently, very powerfully, his purpose is my purpose. His mission is now my mission. Now, my question to you, after that spectacular and very powerful, moving speech that she delivered yesterday, is she now not only going to carry on the torch of Charlie Kirk, which she clearly will, but we all talked about Charlie Kirk, especially after his ruthless, brutal assassination, even though he was only 31 years of age, 31 years old, how much he had already accomplished, but how much more was still to be done, that he was destined to be president, to be vice president, to be senator, that he had a glorious political future, a very bright political future in front of him. After yesterday's speech, Erica Kirk, young, very articulate, telegenic, can reach young people, can reach even more than young people, as we saw last night, or yesterday afternoon, forgive me. Is she walking now in Charlie Kirk's footsteps? Does she have a very bright political future in front of her? Can you now see her, the way we all saw Charlie Kirk, as a future president, a future vice president, a future senator? In other words, a future very popular, influential, powerful leader. I love that song. I love that song. I just want to thank Mike for having played it during our tribute to Charlie Kirk today on the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to go right back to the phone lines just very, very quickly. The early speakers were largely ministers at the beginning of yesterday's memorial. However, the politicians came later. And what was striking is that I believe the entire, don't quote me on this, but if it wasn't the entire cabinet, it was practically the entire cabinet. The entire cabinet or close to it was in the stadium. And it was packed, as I said, it was 70,000 full to the rafters, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands outside who wanted to get in but just couldn't because there was no more space. And so they watched it on this massive screen. There were congressional leaders there, obviously. Marco Rubio spoke. Tulsi Gabbard spoke. Pete Hegseth spoke. J.D. Vance, the vice president, spoke. Obviously, President Trump spoke. Don Jr. spoke. So many people spoke. Tucker Carlson obviously spoke as well. Elon Musk, this was a great moment, joined President Trump in Trump's suite. You saw them together. They shook hands. They chatted. They spoke in a very nice, friendly manner. Everybody is hoping now that they've buried the hatchet and that they're going to patch up their differences because that's what Charlie Kirk wanted. He wanted them to be unified for the good of our country and to defeat the radical left. And the other thing that struck me, and I just want to get your take on this as well, is that the speakers at the memorial, all of them, spoke from behind bulletproof glass. Charlie Kirk obviously didn't use that safety measure. He didn't want that to come between him and the students that he wanted to touch and talk to and debate with and have a dialogue with. But is this now also, is this going to be a necessary feature of American life going forward? That A, you won't have outdoor events, or they're going to try to minimize them. It's going to be more indoor to prevent, snipers from going on roofs and shooting people, left-wing assassins. Are you going to need to speak with a bulletproof glass in front of you? Is that also going to be now a feature in American life? And I mentioned the shooting of a wedding reception, the party after the actual wedding in Nashua, another act of left-wing terrorism. At least one guest was murdered, 2 others severely wounded by an assassin, a left-wing terrorist who shouted, "Free, free Palestine." I talked about another anti-Trump leftist. This was in Sacramento on Friday. The one in Nashua was Saturday evening. On Friday, another anti-Trump leftist, a terrorist, came to an ABC affiliate in Sacramento and literally shot up the building, firing 3 shots inside a window, hoping to kill someone to protest the firing of Jimmy Kimmel. Is now left-wing terrorism, political violence, political murder, an assassination culture. Is this now just becoming part of life in America? That any day, it could be you, it could be me, it could be any of us. That this is now how unhinged, how diabolical, how fanatical, and how evil the radical left has become. 617-266-6868. Lines are loaded. Betty in Quincy. Thanks for holding, Betty, and welcome.
Jeff.
Hi, Betty.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. I'm still in Arizona, so a little bit behind you guys right now. But, Jeff, the answer to your question is yes, yes, yes. Erica, what a superstar. A shining star. She was so amazing. And to be in that arena yesterday, I mean, I think all of us left there, you think it's a funeral service and send off, but everybody left there really with a pep in their step. It was really a revival, Jeff. It was amazing. It was a celebration. And I've never seen two people more evenly matched, than Charlie and Erica. And so to your point, she's going to pick up where he left off, and she's going to really bring it. She said yesterday, she said, Charlie, baby, she said, I am not going to let you down. She said, I am going to take this to the highest point. She said, I'm going to take your mission, and I am going to take it to reach you in heaven. It was just, she was so powerful, Jeff. I don't know where. You have to say her faith really brought her through this, because to have that much, that power, that class. I mean, she was funny, she was sad, she was angry, and the level of forgiveness. I mean, everybody in the place was crying. Everybody was just so touched. And when she said that, I really thought in my heart of hearts that maybe this is not only the turning point for America and for his message and his mission, but the turning point for the left and the right to come together. I put on the TV this morning just to see, and, Morning Joe, the one thing he pulls out of that is that Erica is so forgiving, but Trump hates his opponents. I mean, everybody knows Trump and his, the way he is, and he jokes around and stuff, but that's what they're coming away with. I mean, Charlie Kirk, he is very much alive in everybody, not only Erica, through Turning Point, through millions of our patriotic and God-fearing Americans. What amazed me, Jeff, also, were the people in line. We get up at 3:30 in the morning, got over there. We had to get out early and walk like a couple miles to the arena. And people are afraid, I can't do this, I can't do that. I was so amazed and so, it was so hopeful to be there. There were people in wheelchairs. There were old ladies, old men. There were veterans. There were kids. Some lady was holding like two babies. I don't know if they were twins, but the amount of little kids and the families that were there, it was just so, inspiring, Jeff. It was just off the charts. And
well, what you're describing, Betty, and we only got about a minute left, so I got to ask you this, but what you're describing is it's the spectrum of America. That's what we saw. Now, many on the left are coming out and saying that what you attended, in fact, what you are, is a Nazi. I'm serious. And what you're describing and what you attended was a Nazi rally, a fascist, white supremacist rally. What say you, Betty?
They have it all wrong. And I don't know if it was J.D. Vance, but he said, you know what, they have nothing. They build nothing. They make nothing. There's no solutions. They've just been handed this lie. And that's why I was hoping that people would be tuning in and watching. It changed so many lives. And you know what? We have to keep believing. We have to keep praying.
Oh, amen. Amen. And just keep speaking the truth. That's what we have to do. 617-266-6868 is the number. Harry in Chelmsford. Thanks for holding, Harry, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing?
Very good. How are you, Harry?
Good. You know, yesterday was, I'll tell you, a day that I've been waiting. I hate to say it was celebrating someone's death, but it was a day that's been waiting to come. Hopefully, I've been hoping for this country most of my adult life, because we have walked so far away from God and His graces in this country. And Charlie was definitely someone who was trying to bring us back, hard as it was that he was out on the front lines telling people about morality and decency and human kindness and these type things that are good attributes towards life. And had all these people that are lost in their fears and angers and just blind guided, you know, and that's what he was out on the front lines with. And, you know, it ended up costing him his life. But I'm going to say this as a Christian, and sometimes the things Jesus calls us to do, he never claimed us to have an easy life. And we got to do hard things sometimes, hard things to unyielding granite. And that man that took his life, his heart at the time was hard granite about what he was doing. And there was no way to stop it, the evil that was on him that day. But Jesus Christ, when he was hanging on that cross, dying, he cried out, and people heard it. And he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do." And I will guarantee you that if Charlie, his last second that he could say something, as that bullet cut through his throat, he was probably saying, "Forgive him, they know not what they do." And his wife, hard as that was, showed us the same thing. And it's just a beautiful thing. And you know what? We're talking about that guy now in jail sitting there. And the law is going to do what the law has to do. Justice will be served, yes. But how about this? Sometime during now and he ends his life, and they take his life put down, that he finds this wakens him up in his hardened heart, and he seeks forgiveness for what he did. How about that? And he claims his starts a relationship with Jesus Christ. He will be forgiven too. So sometimes the things we do are hard to do, but there's always something good on the other end of it. As much as I have a hard time saying that right now, but there could be good in this for that man's life too in the end of his days.
Well,
but
Harry, look, Harry, you're being very, I think, eloquent and extremely compassionate and very powerful. From everything I've read, Tyler Robinson, the murderer, the person you're talking about, is proud of what he's done. He doesn't think he did anything wrong. He is still deeply indoctrinated. He is a firm believer in the LGBTQ far left ideology that he's been under the spell of now for the last couple of years. And I believe the role of his transgender boyfriend, that, you know, the furry, is going to come out. He had the biggest influence on him. He hated Christians. He hates Christians. He hates conservatives. He was obsessed with Charlie Kirk. And he clearly radicalized Kirk's eventual killer and murderer. And no, he's becoming a hero on the left. And he loves playing the role of the hero. And he thinks he's done nothing wrong. He thinks he's convinced he's made the world a better place. And what you're hearing now on the left, I'm sorry to say this, not everyone, but in many quarters, is they've got a lot of work to do. For them, this is just the beginning. It's not the end. And so my fear is, and I hate to say this, but I think we're not at the end. I think we're just at the beginning. I think you're going to see many more acts of left-wing political violence. You're going to see many more murders. You're going to see many more assassinations. They're taking out, they're attacking weddings now. or to be more accurate, wedding receptions. They're shooting up buildings. They're assassinating people. I can't tell. They're sending pipe bombs. Again, in New Hampshire. Again, a left-wing terrorist sent a pipe bomb to kill Governor Kelly Ayotte. They're not stopping. And all you have to do is go on social media. For them, this assassination has emboldened, empowered, and galvanized them. That's why we need the death penalty on this. There has to be a price, and a very severe price, because it's not going to stop. And they wanted Trump dead. They had him. By the grace of God, he's alive today. But they had him. That shooter had him dead in his rights. That bullet was fired. It was heading straight for Trump's brain. And had God not interfered, we may even be in a civil war right now. So this is where our country is. It is at a very perilous moment. We are hanging by a thread. And what you saw yesterday was not just the act of a very devout, devoted, faithful Christian echoing your words of forgiveness and compassion and redemption and salvation, but of a patriot. Erica Kirk is a patriot, like Charlie Kirk. And she's saying, I don't want us to go down this dark road of more assassinations and more murders, because eventually this will tear the country apart. There's only so much people can take. I'm sorry, just a fact. Let's not go down this road. And I'm sorry, Harry, but this is not a question of retribution or revenge. I'm telling you, this is self-preservation and survival. What I'm telling everybody now. You cannot have a media that continues to lie and incite and spread hatred. That was not a Nazi rally. If you think it's a Nazi rally, you are effing insane. And it's incitement. You're going to get people killed. If I say we forgive our enemies and we want peace and tolerance and forgiveness, and you say that's the second coming of Adolf Hitler, you're itching for a war. In other words, there's nothing that we can do. There's nothing except just full capitulation and surrender. And even then, I'm telling you, they don't stop. So you have to understand what we're dealing with now. The Democratic Party is gone. It's gone. To everybody listening, please get that out of your mind. Forget about John F. Kennedy. Forget about Harry Truman. Forget even about Jimmy Carter. I'm telling you, those days are gone. This is the Communist Party of the United States. That's what is now in power. Okay, that's what's in Congress. That's the governor of our state and many states. That's what controls many state legislatures. They're potentially poised to win the midterms. We'll see what happens. They are the Communist Party of America. That's what they are. Now, show to me anywhere in the world since the Bolshevik Revolution, the first time they seized power, show me where the communists have ever been peaceful. Ever. One. Just one. Just one. Just once. One. One country. One government. One time. You can't. Don't bother. I'm telling you, you can't. So, look, here, okay, just to make my point. This was on Friday. They knew that Charlie Kirk's memorial was on Sunday. This was in the wake of Jimmy Kimmel losing or being suspended or whatever, losing his show. There was a vote, a resolution on the floor of Congress in the House. It was a very simple resolution. It was very similar to the resolution in the Minnesota state legislature a couple months ago when a Democrat lawmaker, Melissa Hortman, was gunned down along with her husband. Every Republican voted for that resolution. Every single Republican. It condemned the murder of Melissa Hortman. It honored her memory and her life because the poor woman died. And it condemned political violence. So what the Republicans did was they said, what was good enough for Melissa Hortman should be good enough for Charlie Kirk. By the way, she was a very liberal Democrat. So what did the resolution say? We honor Charlie Kirk's memory and legacy. And we condemn political violence. That's it. Like, literally, that's it. I'm telling you, that's the resolution. Now, to unify, you would think every Democrat would come out and say, well, yeah, you're honoring a guy who was killed in cold blood for political reasons. Of course, yeah, we're going to sign on to it. Yeah, we condemn political violence. Of course, this is a no-brainer. 58 Democrats voted against, explicitly said, blank you, we're not voting for this. And 38 more voted, quote-unquote, present. Meaning we can't sign off on this. We're not going to vote against because, boy, it's really unseemly, but we're not signing off on this. So basically close to 100 Democrats couldn't vote for or literally vocally opposed a resolution condemning political violence. Now, here it is. Who led the charge on the House floor? Just so that you know, Zoran Mamdani is shooting up in the polls. He's going to be the next mayor. You know who's backing him to the hilt? Alexandria Fidel Castro Cortez, AOC. She's the one now. She sees socialism now rising in her party, taking over her party. The Democratic Socialists of America have essentially now captured and taken over and hijacked the Democratic Party. She is now, along with Bernie Sanders, the two de facto leaders of that party. She led the charge on the House floor. Listen to what she said. Okay? He hasn't been buried yet. Listen to AOC. Roll cut 14, Mike.
Today's resolution only underscores the majority's recklessness by choosing to author this condemnation and honoring on a purely partisan basis, instead of uniting Congress in this tragedy with one of the many bipartisan options to condemn political violence and Kirk's murder, as we did with the late Melissa Hortman. Instead, the majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow, and the legacy of bigotry today.
She's claiming that Charlie Kirk supported Jim Crow, which is a lie. That Charlie Kirk supported segregation. I got to be careful. The F-bomb almost came out. That is a freaking lie. That he was a bigot. That is a lie. But she's saying, we're not going to, hey, now they're the victims. Listen to this. You're asking us to honor, basically he's a member of the Klan. You're asking us to honor this hater, this racist, this white supremacist. How can you do this to us? And then she continued, this is pure defamation now. What you're hearing, it's libel, it's slander, it is pure defamation. Right there on the House floor. Roll cut 14A. Mike.
We should be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. Who, after the violent attack on Paul Pelosi, claimed that, quote, some amazing patriot, unquote, should bail out his brutal assailant. And accused Jews of controlling, quote, not just the colleges, it's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it, unquote. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans. Far from the working tirelessly to promote unity, unquote, asserted by the majority in this resolution.
Okay, let me say this right now. I'm going to say it. She's now running for president. Okay, it's come out now. She's laying the groundwork. She wants to be either a next U.S. senator, if from New York. If she can't be U.S. senator, she wants to be president. If this scumbag, if this lying piece of you-know-what, this POS, this Marxist, communist, Sandinista, ever becomes president of the United States, I'm telling you, this country is over. This will lead to a civil war. This woman is a lunatic. And she's worse than a lunatic. She's like a child with a gun. She's a lunatic who who's a bomb thrower. He never said any of that. Notice, quote him, quote the day, quote the time, quote the source where he allegedly said everything that she just claimed. Where did he ever defend Jim Crow? That's a lie. Where did he ever say that Paul Pelosi, he had it coming? We should bail out the guy who took a baseball bat to him. He never said that. Ever. Just like they're claiming he supported slavery. That is a bald-faced lie. A lie. Designed only to spread hatred. That's the only objective. To dehumanize the opposition. To dehumanize Charlie Kirk. To libel him. To smear him. To demonize him. And you can't even wait till the body's dead, till the body's buried? You can't at least wait to do that? No. They oppose the resolution, not just because they hate Charlie Kirk, although obviously they do. They want political violence. Look, let me say the quiet part out loud. They believe he had it coming. AOC believes, yeah, he had it coming. Kill the freaking racist. Kill the Nazi. Kill him. Shoot him. Shoot them all. And you ask us to mourn them? That's what she's saying. On the House floor. That's the Democratic Party now. Period. That's why we have to win. That's why we have to now speak truth to power. We can't bury our heads in the sand. Mamdani is going to be the mayor. Michelle Wu is going to get reelected to a second term. I could go on and on. She's likely to potentially be their presidential nominee in 2028. This lunatic. I'm sorry, man. If we're not Charlie Kirk, we're dead. Now, I believe in forgiveness. I don't believe in suicide. So what am I supposed to do? What, we're just supposed to sit back and let them pick us off? One by one? Hey, I don't have a death wish. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I certainly don't have a death wish for this country. Now, it's not just the lies that AOC spewed on the House floor to our eternal shame. Eternal shame. She should be censured. Literally, she should be censured. We're the Republicans. This is beyond political BS. And by the way, Charlie Kirk now is an anti-Semite? Charlie Kirk now. The Jews are everywhere. Talk to your colleague, Ilhan Omar. Talk to your friends who are protesting on all these campuses at Columbia University and elsewhere. Those are your people, AOC. He was one of the staunchest defenders of Israel I've ever known, and of the Jewish people and Jewish culture and Jewish civilization. He never said any of this. But then along comes Ilhan Omar. She also voted against the resolution. She came out now and said, listen to this, that Somalia is a better place to live than Trump's America. She literally came out and said that Charlie Kirk was such a racist and such a bigot that America is better off with him dead. She basically said he had it coming, he deserved it. And then you're not going to believe what she said. Okay, this is what my sister wrote in response to Elon, some people did something, Omar, claiming that Somalia, I swear to you, is better than Trump's America. One of the poorest, most godforsaken countries on earth. This is what my sister wrote in a private text message. Jeff, if Somalia is so much better, then why doesn't she just not go back there? Jen, that's exactly what I'm saying. You read my mind, Jen. So then go. Who's stopping you? Leave. And don't let the door hit you on the way out. And then my sister makes a follow-up point, which is also, I think, dead on. Jeff, notice that all of these leftists think it's better everywhere else, but they remain here. Why don't they all just leave? Because they're a bunch of liars and hypocrites. They know it's infinitely better here. But they gotta, flop their mouth and act all woke and, dump and hate their own country. And no one does it better, frankly, than Ilhan Omar. So, listen to her now. They're eulogizing Charlie Kirk. And she goes on CNN with Caitlin Collins, another anti-Trumper. And listen to what Ilhan Omar says. Roll cut 21, Mike.
I do believe he was a reprehensible, hateful man. Like, that is my view of the words that he has said about every single identity that I belong to. He didn't believe that we should have equal access to anything. He also just didn't even believe I could be smart enough. I could have thoughts that could be equal to a white man. Where are we missing this conversation about who this man was and the things that he said? How do you not find that reprehensible, Caitlin?
Well, of course I don't.
Do you think I don't
subscribe
have
to that? But
do you think I don't have the brain processing power like you or a white man?
Well, of course not. And I know, think it's very clear here that I'm not sharing his views. But if somebody said that, would you say that that would be reprehensible views? I think the argument that was being made.
No, but I'm asking
what
you.
We have heard.
What I'm asking you is, would you say that?
Yeah, I understand what you're asking me.
But you're asking me, how could I find him reprehensible? Like, that is reprehensible. You said it is reprehensible yourself. That is vile, it's reprehensible, and it is hateful.
Now, the only one that's vile and evil and reprehensible is her. It's Ilhan Omar. And throw in Caitlin Collins as well. Because any honest reporter would have said, he never said any of those things. You're lying. Either you're just so lazy that you've been handed stuff from the internet and you just, like a parrot, mindlessly repeat them. Okay, so either you're a smear merchant and a liar, okay, and just a lazy idiot, or you are deliberately lying and character assassinating this man. In other words, you're defaming him. So is it door one or door two? Either way, and by the way, since Somalia is so much better, how about you take door three and leave? Now, she's one of the leaders of the Democratic Party, Ilhan Omar. Now, I'm asking you, seriously, in a serious question, can you have peace with someone like her? Can you have peace with someone like AOC? When they deliberately lie and distort and manipulate and gaslight and incite? And, he deserved it. He had it coming. Again, he never said that was a deliberate lie. It got a Washington Post liberal editor and columnist fired from the Post. She fabricated the quote where he said that black women don't have the same brain processing ability or power than white women or white men. He never said that. That's why she got fired. So, in other words, instead of saying, you know, all this incitement and all this hatred that we keep peddling, it got a man killed? No. Maybe we should slow down, stop, recalibrate, pull back, restrain ourselves? No. They just keep on lying. They just keep pouring gasoline on the fire. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree? Brenda in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff, and thank you for taking all of my calls.
My pleasure,
I got
Brenda.
a couple of points. Thank you. I have a couple of points, and I'm just going to add one little thing. I don't want to speak too much on AOC, or I call her the chick with the too tight hijab. Maybe she should talk to Erica Kirk. I would like her to have a one-on-one with Erica Kirk, which exactly is what she said to Caitlin Collins, but I'm going to let that go. What I wanted to share with the audience and with you is that this has been an exhausting, 12 days for all of us with regards to Charlie Kirk. And I'm trying to look at this through the lens that this is a great opportunity, despite the fact that you're always going to have people in the world that have cold hearts, like AOC and Ilhan Omar, and we are called to pray for these people. It's very difficult. I have my fist up to God many times, bless your enemies, pray for your enemies, all this. It is not an easy walk to be a Christian, and he never said that it was going to be easy. He said it's about eternity. It's not about being easy. But I see Charlie Kirk's death as an opportunity for those of us that are self-professed Christians. You know, we're unashamed Christians. We tell people that we're Christians, that this is our opportunity to share God's good news. And we saw that yesterday for 5 hours, the word of God going all over the world. So God takes something that was meant for harm. That's actually a quote from Genesis. I think it's...
Brenda, can you just hang on because I'm up against a hard break? Brenda in Beverly. Thanks for holding, Brenda, and welcome.
Okay, I just wanted to finish what I was saying before you went to commercial break. I was actually in the middle of sharing a biblical verse that I believe that applies. It's significant to the death of Charlie Kirk. It's in Genesis 50:20. Where God says, where Joseph says to his brothers that seriously harmed him, you intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Now, we had to lose a great life in order to save many lives. And as we could see what happened yesterday in that phenomenal tribute and what's going on worldwide as a result of his death, there's a lot of good that is happening. Yes, like I said before, we're always going to have people that are stone cold hearted. They suffer from willful blindness. You understand that, Jeff? And some of these people you just unfortunately can't reach, and we're supposed to pray for them. I do want to commend Becky from Oregon. I also wanted to quote that scripture, which is significant for all of us. Forgiveness is a really tough thing. I mean, it is a huge battle for all of us. And on one end of the continuum, you might have some low-level offenses that you can blow off, like, a family member. She's saying that again. Then you swing it, and then it's, to the horrific things that people have to contend with, i.e., like Erica Kirk with the murder of her husband, and, the laundry list of horrible things that go on in our world. But we all have to do a cleanse of our heart, because we do not want to become like those that are offending us. And like your texter, that brilliant text, we don't want that poison to fill us up. We don't want to do that, because then we become them. And I think there's beauty. They call it beauty for ashes. And I think that this is what we perhaps are experiencing. Unfortunately, we had to lose a great person in order to have this experience. I believe that he's smiling as a result of it. He's free. He's free. We're down here contending. And you brought up a wonderful an event that I saw years ago. It was that courtroom scene, and I remember that brother's name, the murdered brother's name. His name was Odom. And I remember crying. I'm like, oh my, look, this man has, and he was a young man too, if you recall.
That's right.
I'm like, he's forgiving this woman. I have the goosebumps even sharing that. And then, of course, the judge giving the Bible. And there's huge significance for all of us to see that. And that is what people saw yesterday. And we're going to get the hardcore, we're going to get the AOCs, and we're going to get the Ilyan Omars and whatnot. But many people in there, there's a reckoning. There's a something happening. It hasn't come to fruition. And there's beauty in that. And it reminds me, and I remember years ago sharing this with you, and I think you said you knew this woman, because this is where we're at as a country, Rwanda. And there's this woman named Immaculate Ilibagiza, yes. And yes. She was in the middle of that whole nightmare. She spent 3 months in a secret bathroom in a pastor's home that even his wife had no knowledge of. Can you imagine 3 months? And she was 3 months with 7 other women. This wasn't some big, glorious bathroom on an estate. This was just some, you walk in, there's the tub, the toilet, and the sink, and 7 women in there. She ends up getting out. 4 members of her family were slaughtered. The Hutsis, the Tutsis, the neighbor against neighbor. I mean, does it sound familiar? Slaughtering these people. She starts filling up with rage. Of course, 4 members of her family are dead. And she has that come to Jesus. She was a Catholic. I believe that country was very Catholic. And so she knew what she had to do. She goes, I am not going to let this poison kill me now. On top of it, it's already taken 4 members of my family. She goes to the prison. And she goes, not so much to confront, but to say, I am starting the process of forgiveness because I have to. And she looked right across from the guy. She found out who it was. And in the book that I have about her, it's amazing. There was he's lorded his soul over to the devil. He was dead. He's dead. He's dead. And I met that woman at an event in a church, and I grabbed my girlfriend. We were sitting there, and I go, I want what she has. Not her materialism, not all the stuff. She lives in America now. I want her presence. I want that spirit of peace that she emulates. I mean, when she walked into the church.
No, you nailed it. No, I've seen her. No, you're right. It's like there's a light on her. And that's what I felt yesterday with Erica Kirk. There was like a spiritual, transcendental light that just emanated from her. And Immaculate had the exact same thing. And people who know Immaculate very well, and I know one in particular who's basically best friends with her, they're telling me what you saw in Rwanda in the 1990s between the Hutus and the Tutsis, which was, over 1 million were slaughtered in 3 weeks with machetes. They just slaughtered each other. That they're starting to see the same thing now here. The same process of dehumanization, the same incitement. By the way, it was all lies. They'd go on the radio. There was more radio than TV because it's a very poor country. But they would go on the radio and claim that the other side or a prominent leader of the other side said X, Y, and Z. And he had never said that. Like literally, they were just making stuff up. And that's what, what Ilhan Omar and AOC and what they're all doing. Oh, he supports Jim Crow. He supports slavery. I'm like, you're lying through your teeth. And they did that on purpose to whip up hatred and frenzy. So in other words, it's okay. Go ahead and kill them because they're scum. They're subhuman scum. And that's what you're starting to see slowly here in the United States. And that's why this has to be called out. There has to be consequence culture, as we're now calling it. Not cancel culture. That's what the left did. This is consequence culture. You have to be held responsible and accountable for your words, your deeds, your actions, and above all, your lies. Your incitement to violence, violent rhetoric, and to hatred. And that's now what finally many conservatives are starting to wake up to. Brenda, as always, thank you very, very much for that call. Bob in Plymouth, I know you've been holding patiently, Bob. Thank you and welcome.
No problem, Jeff. I'm so glad to hear that you're feeling better. But two things I want to bring to your attention. Number one, the question you had earlier in the show, whether you would forgive the killer. Yes, no. You left off the third option. Never. Never would I ever forgive that guy for what he did. Never. But anyway, the next thing you're going to start hearing from the left is that guy can't get a fair trial in this country with all this press coverage. There's no way they could have an honest jury. That's coming down the line. You watch.
You know, I wish I could disagree with you, but you're right. You're, as I like to say, 1,000, not 100, 1,000% correct. And by the way, not only that, they're already going on about his relationship with that transgender furry, guy, Lance Twiggs. That this is like Romeo and Juliet. That this was such a passionate, loving affair between them. And that's really what motivated Tyler Robinson. He was protecting the great love of his life from the harmful words of Charlie Kirk. And they're already in many corners. He's a hero. He's a folk hero for having killed Charlie Kirk. They're making direct comparisons between him and Luigi Mangione. So, and by the way, they're already saying they don't want the death penalty. Absolutely not. No, because why? Because they want to lionize him and they want him to be alive for 70 years to serve as an example and a model to others. That's how you deal with fascists. Look at Tyler Robinson. And so I wish I could tell all of you that he has remorse, or at least that it's the reports that he has remorse. The reports are the exact opposite. That he feels guilt-ridden, he feels remorse, he feels sorry. No, quite the opposite. He thinks he struck a blow against quote-unquote hate. He struck a blow against Trump's, Nazi, coming Nazi dictatorship. According to Tyler Robinson and that sick boyfriend, both of them, they thought Charlie Kirk was the second coming of Hitler. 617-266-6868. Verna in Arlington. Thanks for holding, Verna, and welcome.
Thank you very, 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 very much, Jeff, and all of you. And I want to say good morning, not just Kuhner Country, but Kuhner's America to all of you out there. I did watch the memorial service from 1 till 7 and after the whole thing as well. And I want to say somebody just referred to a scripture verse, and I'll quote it right now. It's in Isaiah chapter 61, Isaiah 61. It's verse 3, to appoint unto them that mourn, M-O-U-R-N, to give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, again, M-O-U-R-I, oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they may be called trees of righteousness, etc. And that's right after the quote that Jesus gives in 61, verse 1 and 2. A couple of comments here I want to say to, I watched the whole thing, and I want to just give a little bit of history, if you can allow me for a moment. My own spiritual, personal journey brought me through the Protestant, evangelical, Pentecostal journey into the Catholic realm. I am now a practicing Catholic. I came from an atheist, agnostic, unbelieving family background. And it was my recovery that brought me to believe in God. And what I saw last night, the many ministers and pastors that also spoke, as well as all of the administration people, including President Trump, who was the final speaker after Erica, all of them spoke the gospel. All of them spoke about God. All of them were proclaiming the power of God. And I just want to say, that was amazing. I took photographs of everything on TV. I was watching from TV, obviously, and this is miraculous. It is powerful, and I just want to put it out there that to see the revival, and as Erica said, as well as other people said, This was not a funeral service. This was a revival.
Oh, you nailed it. Verna, you nailed it. Look, I think there's no question what we saw yesterday, that memorial service, one was a memorial service for a martyr, a genuine, as Trump put it, I thought so eloquently and powerfully, a martyr for American freedom, a martyr for the Constitution, a martyr for American patriotism. I think there's no question. And what you also are seeing now is a religious revival. This is what Charlie Kirk's murder, his assassination, has led to. It has now spurred on a massive religious revival. You are, especially with young people across the entire country. And I thought that was on full display yesterday. And that's why I think we're going to be living with the effects of what this shooter did to Charlie Kirk and Charlie Kirk's martyrdom and his example, I think now for years and years, if not decades to come. This is a fundamental turning point in America. We can all sense it. We can all feel it. Anyway, Verna, thank you very much for that call. Very well said. Anne in Needham. Anne, we've got 2 minutes. I hate to rush you, but you've got 2 minutes. Go.
With Charlie Kirk, but let's remember that all good religions teach light over darkness, good over evil, respect, justice, and giving back.
Oh, and I completely agree. This Charlie Kirk was a Christian himself, but what you're seeing now is a religious revival. It's not just people embracing Christianity. You're seeing many, Charlie Kirk had many Jewish supporters.
Right,
many of them, young Jewish supporters, and they're embracing their Judaism now more than ever. And you're seeing he had also many Indian supporters, Indian American, and they're embracing their Hinduism. So you're seeing it, all religions. He had a profound impact because he kept saying his fundamental message was faith, family, and freedom. Final word to you, Ann.
No, that's it. Just all good religions teach light over darkness, respect, giving back, and we need that in our country.
Amen. 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 And thank you very much for that call, Ann. No, look, what we need is a restoration of good versus evil, of right and wrong, and really of a restoration of the belief in God. Because if you go all the way back to our founding, where do our rights come from? It's right there in the Declaration of Independence. We are endowed by our Creator, i.e. God Almighty, with certain unalienable rights. And the first of these, or the foremost of these, are the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So America was really founded upon religious freedom, founded upon God, founded upon fundamental individual rights and liberties that we all are given to us, endowed by God Almighty. And that was the point Charlie tried to make again and again and again. Show me a godless society that is a free society. As he kept saying, show me a godless society anywhere in the world that is ultimately a humane, decent, civilized society. You can't.